guys, it is Happy Howell Home, and summer is winding down, and I wanted to come on and say a quick hi and let you know that we are in fact still homeschooling, and I am gearing up to start after Labor Day, and I'm going to come on and try to maybe do a look through of what we're using for curriculum this year. But I have been humbled. I had always assumed that I would be a box curriculum mom, and that I would buy a Becca or BJU or ACE, or I would buy a box, and it would come with the teacher's guides and the workbooks, and I would stack everything in little colored magazine holders, and I would save my teachers' manuals year after year, and I'd have all these kids go through, and we'd have this little tiny schoolroom, and it would look like school at home. And I just really always assumed that would be what it would be. And then God decided to humble me, and I've got a little guy playing next to me, but God humbled me and said, that's not what's working for your kiddo, and stop being afraid. I was afraid to branch out because we're in a regulated state, and I was like, but Lord, I need papers and worksheets, and I need books and tests and grades, and he said, yeah, you can have that, but let's not be so rigid. And so God in his infinite grace allowed me to deal with that and handle that change, and we're going to be doing unit studies for science and social studies. And it's a multidisciplinary, so science, social studies, Bible, art, and music are all kind of pulled into that. And then because there isn't really any worksheets per se, I purchased BJU Press Science from a Christian school that had closed, and they had some copies of the workbooks that had bent covers, and then a teacher's guide that went along with it. Okay. That went along with it, and it was the cover had ripped, and so they had taped it back on. So, but I didn't care because it's just me, it's just us. No one else is going to really see that, and that's okay. I got the BJU Science to use. Yes, that's fine. That's fine. So I used that so that we'd have some paperwork, and we'd have a little bit of a guide to follow through, and I can pick those topics out as we're coming into them from the unit study and match them up if they do, or I can just do some standalone pages as needed. I'm also using 180 days of social studies, and that is again just for worksheets. So in one of the unit studies, it talks about maps and atlases and some geographical type landmarks and that sort of thing. And so in 180 days of social studies, there is also a section on maps and geographical things, and like the little keys that are on the side, the legend that's on the side of a map. And so we'll pull those pages out to do with the unit study to stick into our portfolio. So that's what we're doing there, and I'm kind of excited about that. Letting go a little bit, realizing that, it's okay to tailor the education that I'm giving my child who has some of these special needs, because that's one of the reasons I took him out of homeschool, or kept him at home and didn't want him in public school. Kept him at home. So we took the summer to do some field trips. We went to a coal mine museum, and that was amazing. Let me tell you, we got to go down into an actual coal mine that is no longer in use. Like the Department of Labor or whatever came in and made sure that it was safe for people to come into, and you could go in and you saw the mines. You went right down into like the very pit of these mines, and you learned all about what coal mining was like, what life was like for the miners and for the miners' families and for the communities in those days, some of the safety concerns, some of the rudimentary technologies that they used then. and that was really awesome. And then there's a restaurant that served some traditional foods that you would have eaten then, and that was really cool. So we took in that. We also then on our own found a current day coal miner. There is still coal mining and there are still coal miners, but it looks absolutely different, obviously, from what it was back then. And so we talked about the differences, and we were able to ask questions, and we were able to say, well, this is what we learned in the coal mine museum. How does that differ from what you're doing now, and that sort of thing. And that was really cool. We also went to a windmill farm. It's also called a wind power station, I believe. And we saw how fields and fields and fields of windmills are lined up. And as the turbines, I think they're called, spin, as they move, of course, power is generated through that. And then it's, stored and able to be used by other communities. And so that was really cool. And yeah, so we spent the summer doing some hands-on stuff, got in a ton of PE, swimming, rope climbing, rock climbing, just being outside. We looked at, we went to the ocean and got to see some ocean life and some different crustaceans that are there and different plants that you see at the ocean that maybe you don't see here. And we got to see, we learned about tide, and we talked about, of course, water safety, but how it's different in the ocean than it is in a pool, and brought in some health and safety stuff. And, we spent our summer really living and breathing our education, and it made me realize that I wanted this to be how they learned. I don't want to jeopardize their education, so I am going to still buy books, and we are going to have some paperwork that we're going to do, and we are going to have a math textbook or a workbook, and English and language arts, that is handwriting, that's in paper. You kind of have to do that eventually, but I wanted to have as much as I could be hands-on learning that was outside of a workbook, so that it didn't feel like we were sitting at a desk, with our brains just fighting sitting. I mean, it didn't seem fair, and the Lord really kind of pushed me to say, if you're sticking to a workbook out of fear doesn't come from me. And you can still stick to your state standards. You can still have your check marks and your boxes and your grades and your, and your sheets and your, you can still have all of that. You can still fit into your state standards. You can still have the organization that you like to have, but you can do it in a fun way. And so that's really great. I'm actually excited about homeschool this year, and I've started going through our unit studies and planning that out, and I have to say we're all really excited. So stay tuned. I'm trying to get on more. I feel like a lot of days I'm just living in the moment, and the challenges that we face on a day-to-day, day-to-day, they're big and they're hard, and some days they're scary. But we are pushing through, and so if videos come last, but I want to be on YouTube, and I want to actually have a following, and I want to be able to share all of the fun and exciting things that we're doing and the passion that I have for this. I want to be able to share that, and I think that life gets in the way, but that's okay, because this is why we're doing it. We're doing it for our kids, right? I'm doing this for my boys. And we're all, as homeschool mamas, we're doing this because we know it's what's best for our kids and for our families. So thanks for sticking around. This was a long one. But I hope that you do stay tuned and that you watch for some more videos. And yeah, hope you're having a great day. Bye-bye.